a sweet girl. This is my Yorkie Cleo. She's now going on 4 years old. She's currently, I think, pregnant with her third litter too. So I got her a maternity outfit. Doesn't she look nice? Isn't she a good girl? She's a sweet girl. But that's not what's today's video. Today's video is This Old Gat. Got a new backdrop here because I know the pink's a little hard to deal with. And I got this. This is exactly the way I received it. This is a, well, let me start some backstory here. I have a friend who deals with estate clearouts, and with the permission of the estate holder, certain things are turned over to me, including firearms, because they don't know what to do with them. So this particular individual was a custom rifle maker, probably for more than 40 years if memory serves, and he would bring new life to dead guns, surplus rifles. What you see here is the remnants of a Remington model 1903A3 Springfield pattern bolt action rifle. Now, the only part of this that's original to this gun is that receiver, that trigger, and that bolt, which is incomplete. Everything else was not available. So it's not like I get to restore a battle credentialed, rifle or whatever. This guy built sporters. He handcrafted Monte Carlo stocks, and he sanded them down, and he, added the bits to them, which this is still left unfinished. I went ahead and finished the glass bedding here and here, and it is insanely tight. It's really hard to get that back out. It's my understanding that this is a aftermarket Criterion barrel, which I believe he had turned down to make it thinner profile, but it was in pretty bad shape. I'll probably stick in a close-up B-roll shot of another barrel on another rifle that I got from the same estate to give you an idea of the condition. But what I've done here, I've gotten a little ahead of myself. I found the trigger and the sear and the disconnector and the magazine cutoff in boxes, and I went ahead and already put that back together before I started filming, just to check for function. And anyway, I ended up wet sanding this barrel down with 600 grit and then 1,000 grit. And my initial goal was to get the striation or the marks back into the barrel as it was turned, because he had gouges going this way. So this is after, I think, only 2 passes. It's pretty clean. I may just leave it the way it is. I might take it up to 2,000. I don't know if I want to make this super shiny or not. I think it'd be kind of pointless if it's a hunting rifle to put glint out on your target. But for me, this is just going to be a target rifle. So maybe I will glitz it out just a little bit. So anyway, this is exactly the way I got it, minus the bits that I did put on, and I ran out of parts. So apparently this was a project that he never finished, and this bolt was missing its extractor. So I thought, well, what am I gonna do? Because we had COVID, then we had the deep freeze, then we had political stuff, and then I don't have a lot of money to spend on guns this year, so I thought what I would do is I would go ahead and just finish what this guy started. And to do that, Numeric to the rescue. So what I was missing is a receiver, or the trigger guard screw there, and the magazine spring and follower, and the extractor, and the trigger guard with the magazine box. So basically what I'm going to do next is dry fit all these together to do a mock-up. And I've got a 1950 style 3x9x40 scope that I'll put on it. And I went ahead and ordered a couple of Weaver scope bases, because he had already had these drilled and tapped, and it was really fun trying to figure out what he had it drilled and tapped for, until I found another set of these for a different rifle in another box, and I thought, well, maybe he used them for all of them, so sure as shit, he did. So give me a second, and I'm going to start by putting the extractor on the bolt, and then I'll start putting the magazine together and then maybe show you the dry fit. This is just part one. Later on I'll take it all back apart and then I'll redo the wood. Essentially all I'm going to do here is I'm going to soak the whole thing down in Watco Danish oil. I'll put down 3 coats and then check the sheen, and then if I want it shinier, then I'll lay down 4 coats of tung oil to really seal it up and make it all super shiny. So sit tight and let me get some of this all put together, and you can watch my dog Cleo wonder what the hell's going on outside of my bedroom door. Anyway, sit tight. Let me mock it all up. There's really not a whole lot to this. Let me explain, because YouTube has these rules on what you can and cannot do, which I don't think I can do an assembly video, like step by step. So I'm just gonna explain to you what I'm doing, do it, show you the finished results, and then we'll do a dry run on it, and then I'll tear it down, and in the next part, I'll go ahead and handle all the wood. Afterwards, maybe we'll go into my second rifle and another This Old Gat, but you'll have to stay tuned for that one, because this is 30-06, but the other one, it's a beast. It's a monster. It's a huge rifle, and I've got a really cool scope for that one too. Sort of period correct. I believe it's a 4x16x52, so monster scope for a monster rifle. But that'll be next after I'm done with this one here. That one needs a few bits too. So anyway, let me just give you a cost breakdown. All the barrel, the receiver, trigger pieces that, I had all these, so I didn't have to pay for it. The stock I already had, and the bolt was incomplete, but I already had it. Essentially, I've got a 1903A3 Sporter for 86 bucks. Yeah, so budget, bargain, sweet, right? Anyway, I'm babbling. Let me get this all together and I'll show it to you all mocked up. Alright, so here's where I am at now. This is the mock-up phase. This is several days later, I'll explain in a minute. But all the parts are in the rifle now. I know you're probably thinking that scope seems a bit high, and you would be correct. The reason I had to wait a few days was because the scope rings that I had were too low. And the ones I bought, as strange as it may look, is a bit high, but because of my jawline and my cheek, that's actually right where I need it, strangely enough. And I needed the appropriate clearance because the bolt handle has to clear the variable adjustment. This is a 3x9 scope. It's period correct. If I remember right, this was built back in the late 50s, this model. 3x9 by, I think it's a 32. So, for a 30-06, that's gonna be okay. I've got a fixed 3-power, fixed 4-power on an Argentinian 1891, I believe it is. I think it's an 1891. Anyway, and that one works perfectly good for that rifle, so this should be just fine. I'll probably leave it on the 3X setting most of the time because of the short distances I have to work with at my local. But bolt works. Magazine cutoff works because I've got 2 snap caps in there. Here, let me flip this around. Remember, this is in mock-up. I haven't Loctited these sling mounts or these scope mounts in yet. This is just a dry fit to make sure everything's functioning. But I can flip this over, work the bolt like so. Right. Pick up around, eject. First time I put this together, I had this strange thing where I've got 2 of these in there. See, there's the other one. But for some reason, when I got to the last round, sometimes this would come flying out with it. And I thought maybe I was missing a part in there, but I'm not. There's an ejector right there. And this little shelf right there is where it catches onto, and I'm pretty sure I got the follower in correctly because it only fit onto the spring one way anyway. So I'm not really sure what causes it to eject 2 when I do the last one. Sometimes it just flings this last one up pretty violently. But because it's a sporter, I can't really use the stripper clip bridge, so I have to load them in one at a time anyway. And just push them in and remember to push them towards the rear, so that way the bolt catches them just right. See, they're in there nice and happy. I don't know, maybe I do have the follower. No, I'm pretty sure the follower is in there correctly. And I just flip this little guy. Oh, I can't right now. Alright, well, let me push the bolt forward. Give me just a sec. That should do it. Right? No, still trying to pick up the iron. There. And put the disconnector back on so I can just play with the bolt at random. Anyway, the trigger's good on it. It's heavier than I thought. I have a Pwnery, period correct Pwnery from like the 50's also. I know I keep saying period correct for the 50's, but you have to understand this is a 1903A3. Imagine it was surplused and then somebody sporterized it. So I figured the first time it would have been sporterized is probably in the early 50's. So I do have a Pwnery trigger for it, but I didn't really want to mess with this guy's stock. Like, he pretty much shaped this and did all the work on it. You can see all the sanding marks on the horn cap and everything. And I really didn't want to mess with it. I wanted to just finish what this guy started, and unfortunately he passed before he did, so I'm leaving it the way it is. But, you know, I didn't want to inlet. A Pwnery trigger doesn't just drop in on a stock. You have to kind of cut away some material up here, if I'm not mistaken, to get this box section of the Pwnery to fit. But I have one, but this trigger's okay. I mean, it's about, I mean, it feels heavy, but it's really not. It's maybe 6 pounds, maybe. I don't know, it feels good. I like it. I'm gonna leave it the way it is. It's crisp. As I said earlier, before I started the mock-up, I had the stock and the barrel was, I guess you call it populated. The barrel was installed on the original receiver. This is not an original barrel. I know that for a fact. It's not an original barrel. I've been told that this is a Criterion barrel because they make 1903A3 barrels, and the guy did some metal work to it. I think he might have machined it down for a taper, or I know he was doing something with it because it had like these like scratch marks going this way down the barrel. And what I did was I hit this with 600, and then I hit it with 400. And then I hit it a second time with 600, I hit it again with 800, and I still didn't get some of these marks out. But you know what? I suspect I'm gonna build a bridge and get over it, because it's better than when it started. There's machine marks from the sanding this way now all the way down the barrel, and I'm pretty happy with the way it was. Originally what I was gonna do is I was going to jewel the entire barrel, but that became impossible. So now I think I understand why people don't jewel entire barrels. So I just did this satiny finish by making sure that I rotated the grit all the way around nice and smooth, so it's a nice clean barrel. But technically worthless hunting, huh? Because if the light hits this is gonna glint and it's gonna tip me off. So good thing it's just a range toy for me, you know? But anyway, there it is, mocked up, put together, triggers in there, floor plates in there. I did get these parts earlier. I probably already said this, so apologies if it seems repetitive. The trigger guard, the magazine box, the follower, the spring, the extractor, and the screws, the front and rear screw to hold this all in. Those all came from Pwnery. I got them. Granted, we had snow frost apocalypse in Texas last week, so the delivery was delayed, but it got here in a respectable amount of time, so I've got no complaints whatsoever. The next process I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this back apart. I'm going to use blue Loctite on these scope mounts, the Redfield scope mounts that belong to a 1903A3 Sporter. Again, I got this in pieces, and the only original part to this gun is the receiver and the trigger. Nothing else is original. Everything else I had to buy for it. So as much of a purist as I am, I'm gonna live with it just like this, because hey, it's 30-06 and it beats leaving it in pieces to rot, right? So there it is. I had all these pieces. I put them all together. I have a functional rifle. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention something here. You're gonna see 2 sling swivel mounts here. I just put these on. The reason I put them on is because this guy already had drilled 2 holes back here and tapped them. And the thread was very coarse, and I knew that that was a swing swivel mount or a factory original sling swivel, you know, where there's 2 screws and a ring in the middle. I didn't really care about having that. I bought this kit that gave me a bunch of these, and what it does is it gives me, I get to fill in the holes. They fit good and tight. I didn't strip or crack anything up here. You know, I checked to make sure that they weren't too deep. I got to use the holes that were already there, and basically I have 2 places to mount a sling back here. I know it's not correct. It doesn't look proper, whatever, but I just wanted to fill in the holes. So I have 2 sling swivel mounts back here. It is what it is, you know, whatever. But as you can see, there's nothing back here. And I used a guide from Larry Potterfield from Midway USA, and I believe he says that the typical position for a sling swivel on a rifle like this is about 1.5 inches to 2 inches behind this cap. So what I'll do is I will measure this back, I'll scribe a mark, I'll punch a hole with a small punch to keep the drill centered, and I will drill a hole, and I have another sling swivel mount that goes in here. What I'll do is I'll drill a hole all the way through, obviously with the barrel and everything out, and then I'll turn it around and I'll countersink the hole big enough for the nut that comes with the sling swivel mount to fit flush underneath so the barrel doesn't touch it. Really not a whole lot to it. Because the bolts back here are so coarse, I'm not putting anything on them. I mean, they go in tight and they stay still, so I'm not going to mess with this back here at all. The one I put up here, I might put 1 drop of blue Loctite on it because it's a finer thread, and then I'll mount that. And what that will do is not only will it give me the ability to put a sling on it, but since I'm going to use this as a range toy anyway, I'm just going to get one of those bipods that go onto the sling swivel mount and then just fold the legs forward. So I've got options, and those things come off real easy anyway, so I can always put the sling on it later. Like if I really want to take this hunting, I can do that. But honestly, if I'm really going to go hunting, I'm going to take my 4570 guide gun. So to hell with it. Anyway, there it is, all put together. The next time you'll see this, there will be a mount here, and this will all be done. The woodworking will be done. I'm gonna do one more finish sand on this because it's a little rough around the Monte Carlo swell here. Just a little. Probably hit it with 800, just one pass. Get the pores nice and opened up. Get my cheek oil off of this because I kept putting it up to my face. And then, aside from Yorkies, look at all my Yorkies, I'm going to use this Watco Danish oil, black walnut, and I'll just apply that on nice and liberally. I'll use blue painter's tape, and just, well, for back here, I'll just take this cap off because there's a screw here, but I'll blue painter's tape there, I'll blue painter's tape there, I'll do all the woodwork. I like my guns kind of shiny. Like, I'm not going to do it like it's been under 10 feet of water or 2 feet of water or whatever, but what I usually do is, after I did my Carcano and my Swiss rifle, I like the idea of 3 coats of Watco, and then lightly buff it, and then 3 coats of tung oil, which basically gives it a hard, shelly, enamel, shiny finish. The dogs want out, so that's where I'm going to leave you for now, and cue the fade out, and you'll see the next part when it's all put together and beautiful. Maybe I'll show you part of the woodwork too. Anyway, sit tight. So, it's been a few days, a few shaky cameras. Anyway, there it is. She's all put together. This is a Remington 1903A3 that I only had a receiver and a bolt for. That is a Criterion barrel, which I have fixed all the machining marks. I hit it with fine grit sandpaper and shoe shined it this way to get that to look like that. And I believe the barrel crown's all nice and mirror polished too, because I'm pretty handy with the Dremel and some polish. And this is just a sling swivel mount bipod because I don't have a sling right now for it, but this is going to be a range and target gun only, so I'll probably just leave that on there. And what you're looking at, I'm sure you saw it in the still shots earlier, but this is 3 coats of Watco Danish oil, black walnut, and 4 coats of Minwax tung oil on top of it. Now, I haven't buffed it yet, but as you can see, it's a little shiny, and it's really nice. And this is all oil. I'm not using urethane because urethane cracks over time. Either the stock grows or the urethane moves. So, yeah, there you go. Basically, I have completed this gentleman's last project before he passed. This is a 1950s style sporterization of a Remington 1903A3, where I only had a receiver, a trigger, and half a bolt. So please don't get angry about the fact that I didn't restore it to a war original, because I only had 3 parts to begin with. So there it is. I think it turned out pretty nice, actually, and I'm pretty proud of it. It was my first wood and steel restoration gun, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think I'm going to keep it. It's my first 30-06 actually too. So just a little preview of what's coming next. I've got this down here, and you can see she's pretty raw too, and I've got plans. Oh baby, do I have plans. This is a long barreled monster. Yep. And it's got an unfinished barrel, which I'm going to have to do some work on, obviously, as you can see here with all the grain and grit. So I will make it pretty, like this level of pretty. I don't know if that's going to focus, but anyway, it's pretty. You just have to take my word for it. So anyway, just a little preview. This here is a Winchester Model 70. She was drilled and tapped before I got it, but I went ahead and bought the proper scope mounts, and I'll use the same rings as I did for that, but I've got a much nicer scope. This here is kind of a rare beast, actually. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but she's chambered in 260 Winchester belted Magnum. 264 Winchester belted Magnum. So this is going to be a handful. From what I understand, it's basically a 375 H&H neck down to 6.5. So, welcome to the 1950s equivalent and grandfather of 6.5 Creedmoor. I suspect this is going to outperform it if you ever saw the piece of brass that comes out of this thing. So anyway, this will be probably the next episode of This Old Gat. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for watching that episode of This Old Gat. I'm sorry I couldn't show you actually time-lapsing some of the work, but YouTube's interesting new rules don't let me show you procedures. So I tried my best to explain it and then show you the after effect. So there it is, 1903A3, my first 30-06, my first wood and steel restoration slash sporterization, 1950s kitsch. Thanks for watching. Smash the old like button and subscribe button down there if you're new to my channel, and welcome, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.